Welcome to another episode of More Please. I'm Ryan Lindsay, and we are here at Meatings Barbecue, 5380 Canatech Road. We're going to be going inside to have a chat with Matt Floss, the owner and creator behind this brand, and kind of see the way they do everything inside here. Let's go.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really want, yeah.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really want.
What I want here. A little bit more.
A little bit more.
A little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
Matt Floss, this entire company started with a party, did it not?
Started with a couple parties, yeah. My dad's backyard, almost every weekend, Friday, Saturday. So he got a green egg smoker, and I'd have my buddies over. I would watch this YouTube show and try and recreate something for my friends every weekend. And it was a full summer of doing that. That my friends told me, man, you got to open a food truck, a restaurant, something. And then it was when we did a pig roast, which is really what set it off. At that time, I was university dropout, had no idea what I was doing with my life. Ended up finding this commercial pig roaster, sold my car, $5,000 in, $5,000 out, new pig roaster. Luckily enough, my dad let me use his truck for the first year and did a big party, and then that's when when the wedding came in. Someone was getting married that fall, wanted a barbecue-themed wedding, wanted more than just a pig, which was what I was just doing at the time, wanted salads and side dishes and chicken and plates and cutlery, rent tables, chairs, all this stuff that I had no idea what I was getting myself into. But of course I said yes, came back home, called up grandma and grandpa, I need a bunch of salads for 100 people. Dad, I need you to come cook chicken for 100 people. I'll take care of the pig. I sourced out all these tables and chairs when did the wedding, and people absolutely loved it.
Okay, years ago, the KCBS guys came to town. This is the Kansas City Barbecue Society. They are the be-all, end-all for judging competitions. They managed to make it out here to eat. Yeah. And the words that came out of them and a couple very high-ranking barbecue people were that this is the best barbecue this side of the border, which is, that's pretty high praise. I'd say it's pretty high praise. So starting from the ground up, not classically trained, just somebody who was messing around in his backyard but learned how to do this stuff. What does barbecue mean to you?
It's a big question. There's I guess a couple different elements. Barbecue as a whole, it's about gathering and people and food and just forming a bond over food. Because barbecue takes so long to cook, it's not just something you just can throw in a frying pan, it's hours. For me, it was just a full experience of food and family and friends, and just having a good time was just always around this barbecue. Then my dad got this green egg, I'd fire it up. The first couple of times were rough. Some bad meat came out of there when I'd tried them. Luckily, my dad and brother were the first couple culprits, but bite into it, that's very over smoked. But when my buddies were there, I'd feel in the groove and be like, I'm entertaining, I'm hosting, making sure everybody's having a good time, and then feeding them. It was just so rewarding inside. I was like, man, I wanna be able to make something so good that people just shut up right after their first bite and just don't say anything and just sit and enjoy it. And now I'm very fortunate that I get to see that on a daily basis, and the smile and the feedback after people have eaten this food is wow, man, this is delicious. And it's I've been doing it for a long time now, and I still work a lot of hours every week, but it's so rewarding, and it feels so good after, man. People have eaten it and had our food, been at a catering event, been at a wedding. I get a Google review or an email or anything, man, and it's wow, it still makes me blush to this day. Still makes me blush.
Okay, let's talk some food.
Let's talk food. Let's talk food. The reason why we're all here, right, man?
Here. Wow.
Yeah.
I always said having worked in a couple restaurants and a couple fast food joints, the measure of whether a place is fantastic to me is whether or not I can eat there after working there.
Exactly.
And I can eat here any day, any and every possible day, because the food's fantastic. So let's go through the dishes that we've got in front of us. Let's start with the Meatings poutine. Can you give me the breakdown?
The Meatings poutine, fan favorite, kind of just came from evolution. I'd been down in the States during one of our food tours. I think it was down in Florida at this place, and they had these tater tots that they were serving up, and found they were amazing, and came back here, and barely anybody serves tater tots, and I love tater tots, so we got the tater tots, we deep fry them, then we toss them in our signature seasoning.
Which has what in it? Can you give me at least some of the ingredients? I know we're not going to try and pull out
No, of
the
course,
entire
not
ingredient
everything,
list,
but a couple things. It's a little bit of a sweeter profile, because it typically goes with the pork, but the secret ingredient is actually coffee in the rub.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Other than that, I will not divulge much more. So that's our base for the Meatings poutine. You can either choose tater tots or fresh cut fries. Tater tots, big fan favorite. Then we've got cheese curds, obviously from the one and only St. Albert. Gravy, obviously being in a meat heavy place, we have a lot of stock that we're able to make a very delicious gravy with. So that covers off your poutine part of it. What makes it a Meatings poutine is adding 2 other layers. So we've got our smoked pulled pork that we smoke overnight for 12 hours.
Okay.
Pulled fresh from the smoker this morning, hand pulled. Put on top is our meat layer, and then we have our signature mac and cheese on top, fresh cheese from, again, St. Albert, 4 cheeses in there, and then the pièce de résistance, one of your favorites, the crushed Hawkins Cheesies. Not just regular Cheetos brand, but actually Belleville, Ontario, real cheddar cheese, cheesies sprinkled on top.
Iconic. Perfect way to finish it, too.
It
Adds a
is.
nice little crunch.
That crunch
at the
on the
very
top.
Oh, man.
Well, everything else is just melting in your mouth to have a little bite, a little crunch. It just finishes off, and people crush them. I can't believe it. People try and come in and, they'll have it for lunch, and I tell them, like, please don't tell me you're going to go to work after this, because you're not going to be productive. Your boss is going to hate me. I'm going to get a call. What the hell did you do with my employee? But it's a full meal on its own. It's delicious. It's a staff favorite too. A lot of staff will eat it as their staff meal.
I may or may not have had one a couple times as a meal.
Of course.
Mac and cheese, super popular here. Probably one of the most popular sides.
It is the most popular side.
Is it actually?
It is.
So what do you think has made your mac and cheese so endearing, and why did you make sure that mac and cheese was something you had to have on the menu?
Of course. Well, again, regionally traveling through, some of the best places had mac and cheese, because when I learned side dishes are so key to the barbecue game, so second side dish after coleslaw was the mac and cheese. And I tried a lot of different mac and cheeses. So we start completely from scratch, make our own cheese sauce, make our own roux, flour, onions, garlic, butter, milk, cheese, a lot of friggin' cheese. Cheese from St. Albert's, their shredded cheddar is amazing. We use a couple other cheeses in it as well, and just cook it down. And then when we go to make the actual order for mac and cheese, it's actually made to order. So as you saw, we take our noodles, we take our cheese sauce, put the cheese sauce in the pan, add the noodles, add more shredded cheese. And you really want now with social media that cheese pull.
Yeah, the creamy cheese pull.
To pull up your first couple noodles and have that stringiness come down. That's why we add in the cheese at the end. And then again, the topping to add that crunchiness. I had been in, I think it was a place in Florida, and they did crushed Doritos. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. And then I was a huge Cheesies fan, particularly the Hawkins brand. I would always crush those, and I thought, man, one day, I think it was actually my brother, I will give credit to him, who had the idea for using the Cheesies on top. But it just adds that. It's not breadcrumbs. Everybody does breadcrumbs.
Yeah, it does. But they have, like, Hawkins specifically have that almost buttery flavor to them.
Yeah.
So it ends up almost being like a cheesy, buttery breadcrumb specifically.
Yeah.
That's the beauty behind putting those up there in the first place.
Yeah,
so.
no, it's very true, man.
Do you ever have to deal with people that are like, oh yeah, no cheesies on top though?
Yes.
Just get out, leave.
Yes. Yes. Drives me nuts, man. Like, what's the point? It's the whole experience is that crunch on top. But you know what? Some people don't like it, so it's.
Just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
let's go to the pulled pork sando.
Pork sando.
It's such a common thing on a lot of menus now, but you don't do it the same way that everybody else does.
Exactly. So, personal preference and just a lot of places that I traveled to down in the States would tell me that barbecue is not about the sauce. Whereas, typically up in here in Canada, everything's always saucy, covered in what everybody's, favorite sauce, whether it's a bold, a sweet. But typically, whenever you do pulled pork, it's always just drenched in sauce, which takes away from the actual flavor of the meat, the smoke, all the hours, 12 hours sitting in a smoker, taking in so much flavor, marinating from the dry rub that we put into it. So why cover it with this barbecue sauce? That takes a couple hours to make. So we do all of our meats dry rub, especially the pulled pork, hand pull it. We do drizzle it with a little bit of barbecue sauce on it because everybody does love barbecue sauce, and we make our own. So it just adds that extra little sweetness to it. Crunchy coleslaw, signature dressing. People still rave about it. It's one of the recipes that's stayed with me since day one, honestly. And then piled high in between a beautiful bun, toasted with garlic butter, put it on the grill. We get it from a local bakery, Bread and Roses Bakery. It's delicious. It's like little pillows for your meat.
Do you have to spritz your pork? Do you spritz? Like, what do you...
we used to. When I first started at our location on St. Joseph, we had a different style of smoker. So it was wood pellets. It wasn't very well insulated. So yeah, I would basically sleep over at our catering place on Friday night when we'd have our big weddings on Saturday, and get up every 2 hours, use a mix of apple cider vinegar, apple juice, and spray it down to really keep it moist, because when you're cooking for something for so long, the outside of it is eventually going to dry out. And I did that for a full summer. Every 2 hours, sleeping on a couch like this, getting up in the middle of the night, and then going and doing a full wedding after. So after a summer of doing that, I did a lot of research, went down to places in the States, found out what kind of smokers they were using. I figured, there's no way that other people are staying up all night and doing that, so there's got to be a better way. Found and researched this amazing smoker, Southern Pride, built in the States. It's certified to cook overnight. It's a machine. It cooks in Canada in minus 30 degrees. And it's so well insulated that just all the juices and all the moisture, the natural moisture from the meat and the wood, just stays inside this box during the whole cooking process. So I get to go to sleep, staff get to go to sleep while this thing is cooking for 12 to 14 hours. And the end result is better than when I was spritzing it almost back in the day, but it's amazing now that we're able to get such an amazing product, juicy product out of the smoker.
All right, let's talk flavor profiles, because you do all of this stuff in-house. Every single piece of meat that goes out of this place has such a specific touch on it. Let's start with the brisket, because it is the big baby,
And just touching on that, a lot of places that I would go to, not a lot, there were some places that I would go to at the start, and people would say that all the meat tastes the same. It tastes like it's from the same pit. You can tell that it's been cooked on the same charcoal or whatever. And so when I was doing my research, I would try and figure out why, and go to places. Well, have you heard of this place that everyone tastes the same? And a big part of that was barbecue sauce. People would use the same barbecue sauce and cover it all up. People would be reheating meats. When you reheat the meat, you lose a lot of the main flavor profile. And then it was just using different rubs. Some people would just use my barbecue rub and put it on their beef, put it on their pork, put it on their chicken, and then it would just end up with the same flavor. So for me, I wanted something a little bit different. This way we have our brisket. It's more of a savory profile, SPG+.
SPG+.
Salt, pepper, garlic. A lot of people don't even use the G, just
no,
basic
they just
salt,
SP,
pepper.
man. Yep.
But they break it down to the science of the size of the granules of the salt,
the pepper.
ratio of the pepper. Pepper is a thing that people are freaking out about, especially the last couple of years.
Specific.
The mesh, the ratios, it's insane. It's insane. And honestly, I respect it, but some people obviously dive a little bit too deep into it. But we have a certain grade, yes, that we use
of course
for the pepper that we get. We actually have a company who blends all of our spices for us.
Oh, cool.
It's amazing. Spicionary, great guy from Colombia who came here a few years ago, and he brings these amazing spices. And then now we're working together for him to start blending our own, packaging our own for us. So yeah, we're really excited. So back to the brisket, SPG plus, salt, pepper, garlic plus. We add a little bit more flavors in it, but it's more of a savory. But we really want to accentuate the flavor of the beef and the smoke. Beef has a really nice flavor on its own. It's not like chicken where it's kind of bland. beef has a really nice flavor profile, so we just look to accentuate it, basically. The chicken, on that note, because it's so bland, we put a really flavorful spice rub on it. It's the one thing that has a little bit of a kick to it. I love spice. Not a lot of people do, so I wanted to, somewhere slip it in there. And because everybody thinks chicken's boring, I'm sick of it. I didn't want people to think that, Meatings chicken is something that's going to wow somebody. It's not going to be your bland chicken that's been done in the oven, done in the sous vide, whatever, pre-cooked. This is like chicken that we want to you bite into it, you feel the spice, you feel the heat, it lingers. That's what I want. After you take a bite of something, man, for it to linger in your mouth for a few minutes after, half an hour after, is the ultimate goal. So the chicken's got that nice dry rub on the outside of it with the cayennes, some other spices that I can't tell you about that are in the chicken that give it the spicy profile. And then going with the sweet, I have a little bit of a sweet tooth. The pork. So because we're using maple wood, that adds a little element of the sweetness to it. In the rub, we got brown sugar in there, some sugar as well. That heightens the sweetness. And then drizzling it with the maple barbecue sauce obviously adds even more sweetness to it. So that's kind of your juicy, tender, sweet Canadian barbecue kind of sandwich, I would say. So those are the kind of three profiles. The sausages, we have an amazing sausage master Ron, who is a longtime family friend. He gets the pork from Laverne, separates the fat, marinates it all, brines it all, adds in his seasonings. We've been doing ones with different kinds of beers, so the flavor profiles are always different with the sausages.
The barbecue sauce in-house?
Yes.
Yep.
In-house. Made with maple syrup, real maple syrup from Prue Farms, which is the backyard of where I grew up in Cumberland. I have a little bit of a sweet tooth, so that's kind of the base in the barbecue sauce. And me not being a big barbecue sauce guy, it was mostly the fans that kind of asked for it and needed the barbecue sauce because so many people are just used to that with barbecue. We threw it on the menu, tried out some different sauces along the way, and kind of stuck on one for now. But we make our own chipotle mayo, sweet mustard. Those are the kind of things that I like.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
So we've got our ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, sausage, and if you want to bring in a vegetarian friend, we got jackfruit, vegetarian smoked jackfruit to cover those veggies. Sides are a big part of barbecue. Everywhere I went, you got to have great sides. Very important. Everything, again, made from scratch. On the plate here, buttermilk cornbread. We brush it with a honey butter at the end to give that nice glaze. Toast it on the grill, char it up a little bit so that when you bite into it, you have that crispy outside, a little bit of the char from the grill, the butter caramelizing, and then the softness of the quarter bread on the inside. So
I like the grilling too. It's a nice touch.
the grilling, it's a new touch. We're always trying to evolve, man. Always evolving. And smoked beans. Oh, smoked beans, fan favorite again. One of my favorites. Come in the morning, and especially in the wintertime. Come in, have a couple spoonfuls of that, and you're good. Smoked again overnight, underneath the brisket, underneath the pork. All the drippings go into it. It just packs so much flavor. Pulled meat, so you can see there's a little strand of pulled pork hanging over the side there. It's amazing. Maple syrup again from Prue Farms, blackstrap molasses, a bunch of other things that I can't tell you about right now, but it makes for an amazing smoked beans. Even the Quebecois that come in here tell me that they can't even tell their grandparents or their grandma who makes beans that ours are better.
Now, while you could also go probably fries as another side or tots as another side, that's a big old heap into that custom coleslaw.
Oh yeah. Shredded, hand shredded now. We shred it in-house, make our own dressing. Again, that's one of the things that's stayed with me since almost day one. One of the first staple sides to go with a pig roast, obviously, coleslaw, right? So traditional. So I had to make sure that it was a banging coleslaw. Found something in between of super creamy. It's not a vinaigrette. There is vinegar and mayo in it, so it's a mix. It's definitely creamy, but it's not overpowering. The crunch, the freshness to your whole plate of heavy, starchy, fatty foods. Take a nice bite of coleslaw and gives that refreshing palate cleanser kind of taste.
I know there's chicken on there. What's the cook time on your chicken?
Chicken's about 2 hours, depending on the size of the piece. Chicken's one of those meats here that's underrated. A lot of people will say that to us, you know, like, oh, there's so many great things with the brisket and the pulled pork and the ribs. It's like chicken's kind of an afterthought. But like when you bite into it, because of the dry rub on the outside, it has a really nice spice level to it. And like smoked chicken is just so juicy, where compared to, you know, people are used to baking their chicken or frying their chicken. It's boring, it's chicken. But when you smoke it, the little smokiness that's there and the juiciness because it's cooked low and slow is just like a chicken you've never had before.
Still on the dark meat only?
Still dark meat only, baby.
Still dark meat only, okay.
Of course.
All right, hey man, you do you. You do you. The one that a lot of people want to know about. What is the flavor profile on the jackfruit?
On the jackfruit.
It's such a weird thing to talk about because a lot of people don't understand. They're like, well, what do you mean? You could make something that's going to taste barbecue, real barbecue style, using some type of weird vegetable I've never heard of in most cases.
Fruit, exactly. And people, when I say jackfruit, we're like, well, what is it? Well, it's a fruit. It's a jackfruit. So I sourced one of these big-ass jackfruits from TNT, cut it open, and it smelled disgusting.
Yeah, they're terrible smelling.
It's like, how the hell am I supposed to make this into something delicious that people are going to eat and love? So again, more research, and I actually went to Mexico, saw them growing on the trees in Mexico, talked to some of the people there, found out kind of the way that they treated them, and then we put the same seasoning as our pulled pork. So that signature rub, we cover the jackfruit in that, and then we put it in the smoker. Smoke it for about 2 hours, and then when you pull it out, it looks like that pile of pulled pork right there. It's tender, it's juicy, has that nice smoke flavor to it, and people don't believe me that it's not meat. They're like, man, when I pull out the tray of pulled pork and the tray of jackfruit side by side, like, it's vegan barbecue. We made our barbecue sauce vegan, so...
I didn't know you'd gone full vegan.
We
That's
went
amazing.
full vegan.
Nice.
Full vegan.
Amazing. So you've been doing this for years. We talked about this. It's funny. You had a moment in here where you were saying, oh man, I'm just talking about the ribs, I'm salivating. Most people would be like, oh, you know, if you're around it that much, you're not going to be like, oh man, damn, oh, yeah, I can't wait to eat that. But I've seen you. There were days where you'd walk in and you're like, oh yeah, and you're just pounding beans and smacking a rib down and grabbing some brisket right off the first one. You take that first slice and just go, look at that, and take a bite.
Yeah.
How have you kept the passion for barbecue so long? And like you look like you're so excited. You look like a little kid on Christmas every time you come into work, which is
100%.
such an amazing thing to have. What do you think has caused that?
It's the evolution of it and being able to allow my creativity to flow, and then seeing our staff also have that passion, and then seeing it translate to customers. Again, man, at the end of the day, it's seeing someone who's just had your food, who's just been greeted or served by one of your staff, and to come up to you and actually take the time to say, like, Matt, that was some of the best food I've ever had. Everyone was here was so nice. I felt like I was at home. And I'm like, that's all I want, man. What I tell our staff when we hire them on, I want people to come here and feel the same way they did when they came to my dad's place, my parents' house, the backyard, the same family, the same hospitality. And for me, we always had to push ourselves to be better every single day, to not get stagnant, to not get to the point where it's like we don't care anymore, to, you know, evolve, like you said, with customers, with the jackfruit, sometimes not putting cheesies on top, not putting the parsley. Now our barbecue is all the way from Sarsfield to Stittsville during COVID, because with our barbecue that we're able to do at such a great quality level, vacuum seal it, people put it in a pot of boiling water for 10 minutes at home, and it's so good. And it's like, man, now our barbecue is able to go anywhere, everywhere.